Uber past midnight under any circumstances, because the one time I did, it went horribly wrong. Let me set the stage for you. I'm visiting New York City by myself, and this was my first time ever coming here. So I decide to spend the day exploring until around 1 a.m. when I become super tired. So I walk into the subway station because I'm about 6 miles away from my hotel. So I was just gonna take the subway all the way back. But then I see a sign which says the train I needed to take wasn't gonna be working for the next hour. So I'm thinking, well, I don't wanna wait a full hour for the train. I could walk all the way back to my hotel by then. So I decide to book an Uber, but because it was so late, there wasn't any available near me for about 10 minutes. But then finally, I got one. At this point, I'm super exhausted from how long my day was that I'm barely able to stay awake. So then a car that looks like the exact description of my Uber arrives to the pickup spot, and I'm just assuming that it's mine because there were no other cars in the area. But right as I opened the door to get into the car, there was already something off about it because inside the Uber app, it said the driver's name was Glenny. So when I opened the door, before sitting down, just to confirm that I'm in the right car, I say, "Hi, are you Glenny?" But instead of saying yes or no, he just goes, "Huh." So I'm thinking, that was odd. But then I see an Uber sticker on his door, so I'm 100% sure at this point that this is my driver. And you may think I should have got out of the car right when he didn't answer my question asking for his name, but I was so tired at this point that I wasn't even thinking that. I didn't care who was driving at that point as long as they got me back to my hotel. But here's where it gets really weird because he asked for the address of my destination and I tell him, but after he put it into his GPS, he doesn't start driving. Instead, he just sits there and stares at the GPS for a good 30 seconds. He literally looked hypnotized staring at that screen. So after a while, I'm finally like, are you okay, dude? Which makes him finally snap out of it, and he mumbles something back to me, which I couldn't hear because it wasn't clear. But then he puts the car in drive and starts heading towards the hotel. The only problem was, I can see his GPS from where I'm sitting, and the route that it was telling him to take to get back to my hotel, he was not taking. Like, it would tell him to turn right, and he would just keep going straight, and I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, hey, this guy lives here and I don't, so maybe he just knows a shortcut. But that hope quickly went out the window when he started going the exact opposite direction of my hotel. So at this point, my danger radar is off the charts, and I'm just thinking, okay, I gotta think of a plan to get out of here in case this guy is a psychopath that's trying to hurt me. And you know how people always say that in these situations, you either go into fight or flight mode? Well, I chose neither and just went straight into stupidity mode. Because the grand plan that I came up with was to play one of those videos that people record for if you're feeling unsafe in an Uber. I wish I was joking. I genuinely think I may be the only person in the world that used one of those videos in a real life situation. But what I didn't realize about the video I chose was that it was meant for girls that feel unsafe in an Uber, not guys. So the video starts out with a guy that has a super deep voice and he's like, hey baby, what's up? So I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, but I have no choice. I gotta roll with it at this point. So I just go along with it. But then the guy in the video says that he's tracking my location, which I was hoping would make the Uber driver stop or hesitate, but he didn't even flinch. A couple seconds later, the video ends and the Uber driver has no reaction. He was not fazed at all. So at this point, I'm just thinking like, I'm cooked. Like, tell my mama I love her. I'm cooked. I'm genuinely not even kidding when I say that I was coping so hard that in my head, I was like, well, I am in New York, so maybe Batman or Spider-Man or one of those 500 superheroes that live in New York is real and they'll come save me. That's how bad I was coping. Because while I was thinking this, the Uber driver still wasn't taking the correct route to my hotel. So I had no hope that he was just gonna take me to my destination. But then out of nowhere, the driver goes, do you like music? This was the first time the whole ride that he said a coherent sentence that I could actually understand. So I'm trying to get on his good side now, and I'm like, yeah, I love music. But I'm also thinking, oh, maybe this guy is just a normal dude and I've been overthinking it the whole time. But once again, that was a very dumb thing to think because since I said I like music, he starts playing his own and he turns it up to full volume to the point where I have to cover my ears. And to make things even more weird, he's playing house music, which if you don't know what that is, it's the type of genre music they play in the club, which everyone loves to dance to. So what does the driver do? He dances to the music. He's moving his head like this, taking his hands off the steering wheel every couple seconds to dance. So now I'm like, well, if I don't get hurt because of him being creepy, I'm gonna get hurt because of his driving. And he keeps the music on like this for 2 minutes on full blast before he just completely turns it off. And then just like that, we're back to silence. This video is sponsored by Grammarly. As you guys can clearly see, I talk a lot, but the problem I've always faced is I I can never get my words out in the exact way my brain wants to. Now I stutter a lot, so anytime I ever make a video, I like to write it out before recording. But this process can be really difficult if I can't get the video to sound the way I want it to, which is why Grammarly is so great. Grammarly is an AI writing partner that works seamlessly with your everyday apps, and that helps professionals write better and faster so they can get their work done. Their AI features help you cut down on the endless back and forth process of rewriting over and over and over again, and also helps with tone adjustments in just a few clicks, not a few hours. There's so many scenarios where I try typing out my videos for hours without being able to get them to sound the exact way I want them to. But with Grammarly, that process is cut down immensely. Now, of course, you guys may not all be making content, so you might not need this for the exact same reason I do. But that's okay, because Grammarly gives you personalized writing suggestions based on your goals, context, and audience. Writing to your mom is different than writing to your boss. Grammarly gets it and adjusts your tone based off who you're talking to, which is a huge help. But the best part about all this is that Grammarly and all the features I just mentioned are free to use. Sign up and download for free using my link. By the way, keep in mind, when I first got into the Uber, I was about 6 miles away from my hotel. But by this point, we were maybe 15 minutes into the ride, and his GPS still said we were 5 miles away. We traveled 1 mile in 15 minutes. And listen, I know we're in New York City, but there was no traffic at that time. So all I'm thinking in my head is, I have to get out of here. I don't care if I gotta walk back to the hotel. I don't care if I gotta skateboard. I gotta get out of here. So I come up with another idea, which is to tell the driver that I'm not feeling well. So I ask him if he could pull over because I might have to throw up. Now I knew this would be the final test to see if he was actually gonna do something to me or not, because I've been in plenty of Ubers before. They do not want you to throw up in their car. So if you give even the slightest hint that you might do that, they'll pull over immediately. But that's not what this guy does. Instead, he's like, oh, here, have some water. And he hands me a water bottle from the cup holder in the front. But I wasn't born yesterday. I know what's going on, and I'm just thinking, brother, there is no way in the world I am drinking that bottle that probably has Diddy juice in it. Like, I know how this goes. I take one sip of it, I fall asleep, and when I wake up, all of a sudden, I can't remember what happened the last 48 hours. So I politely decline and insist that I really need him to pull over because I'm gonna throw up. And to my surprise, he actually does. He says, okay, let me just find a good place to park real quick. And then he starts slowing down and parks. Finally, I have a glimmer of hope. But all the doors are locked in the car, so I have to wait for him to unlock mine before I can get out. And I tell him this, but he doesn't unlock mine. Instead, just like he's been doing the whole time, he just mumbles something to me. You know what he does next? He unlocks his door and he gets out of the car. Now this was the point where I really had no idea what this guy's motive was, because after he gets out, he just starts walking around the car with his hands around his head. So I'm like, I know what's going on right now. His conscience is battling whether he should do something to me or not. Like, I'm thinking he's got a good voice on one shoulder and a bad voice on the other. And the good one's just like, let him go, he doesn't deserve it. While the bad one's like, come on, you know you want to do it. So I have no idea what his next move is going to be. But then it all starts to make sense because of what happens next. After a few minutes of pacing around the car, the dude throws up. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And after all this time, he finally opens my door. Then while barely being able to stand up, he goes, hey man, I'm sorry, but I can't drive you anymore. I'm really drunk. The reason he threw up and was mumbling his words this whole time was because he was drunk. But the worst part, he was driving Uber while doing it. So I ask him how he's gonna get home, because obviously he shouldn't be driving anymore. And what he says next is so ridiculous, but it made so much sense. Because he goes, oh, don't worry about that. We're right next to my apartment. And he points to a building that was 100 feet away. And then it clicked. The reason he wasn't going the right direction this whole time was because he was driving towards his apartment. He was never trying to get me to my hotel. So I reported this to Uber, and they emailed me back saying that they terminated his account and he would never be driving for them again. But Tyler, if you were 5 miles away at this point, how did you get back to your hotel? Surely you didn't take another Uber, right? Of course I didn't. Conveniently, right where this guy let me out of the car, there was a 24-hour diner not too far from there. So I just went inside, slammed a couple cups of coffee, ate a bunch of pancakes all at 2 a.m. and waited until about 5:30 a.m. when the sun came back up to book another Uber. So if you're thinking of booking an Uber past midnight, don't do it alone.